So what happens if that's the case, right? That's classic external reinforcement happening, meaning the dog is being reinforced by the environment operantly or instrumentally, however you want to talk about it. So something approaches, the dog is stressed, anxious, afraid, the dog threatens, and the approach stops, or either retreats, you pull the dog away, or just stops the advancing. That relieves the dog's stress. So what relieves the dog's stress? Their aggressive response, the fact that they threatened. And now that behavior has been reinforced externally. When I begin to talk about internal reinforcement, and this can happen in a wide variety of ways in leash reactivity, the handler could inadvertently reinforce it by saying, it's okay, buddy, it's all right. They could inadvertently reinforce it by pulling back on the leash when the dog's on a harness, which makes the dog want to go forward, and now they feel supported and sort of emboldens their response. And then the environment itself, usually the approaching person or dog stops approaching when your dog erupts or crosses the street, leaves, whatever that's going to be, or you take your dog away, all of which reinforce it. Internal reinforcement comes, or you also hear me call it self-reinforcement, comes with a certain type of dog. A lot of working type breeds and mixes of working type breeds get some satisfaction from aggressive and predatory responses, even if they're initially governed by anxiety. So here's a second repetition. So that was in the evening, the next day.
So just to be clear with the internal versus external reinforcement, right? So basically what he's implying is the external reinforcement to dogs are the general operant day-to-day things, which those are all the things that would kind of fall within the realms of, you know, traditional operant reinforcement or traditional operant conditioning, right? Mm-hmm. So your 4 quadrants of learning, right? So something happens, something else happens. So the dog alleviates its stress by reacting at the trigger. Mm-hmm. That is a form of negative reinforcement right there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? You positively reinforcing the dog's behavior through something that you're doing to them. Like they're very cut and dry examples of operant conditioning, right? Mm-hmm. Internal reinforcement it's not as simple as that. Internal reinforcement is just there are certain behaviors that feel good to do.
Yeah.
Right? Not because it fits into this cut and dry, operant conditioning model. You could call them positive reinforcement, but it's not positive reinforcement from the standpoint of like externally we're adding something positive into the dog. Yeah. It's internally just positive to the dog.
Yeah. Feeling
right?
good for them.
We didn't add anything. It's built into them. It feels good to do said thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what he means by that, obviously, is there's multiple components to play where some dogs, it's solely just a learned behavior, right? Mm-hmm. Where they learned through operant methods that doing A accomplishes B, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are many dogs in reactivity that are like that. And then there are many dogs in reactivity or protection work where it feels good to do certain things.
They just love
the feeling, the conflict, right? The satisfaction of rehearsing some of those behaviors. The adrenaline, like there's adrenaline junkies out there. Mm-hmm. That is internal reinforcement, right? Nobody did anything to make you like adrenaline, right? It's built into you. You just like the adrenaline rush.
Yep.
And this is where you get into breed-specific traits, right? There are certain breeds out there you have to be mindful of that certain things they're more prone to things feeling good, right? Yeah. There's a reason why Malinois and Shepherds and dogs like that are used for protection training more often than not, is the conflict generally is internally reinforcing to them, right? Dog aggression is one of those things you probably can classify in many cases, like internal, like real inherent dog aggression as internal reinforcement. Resource guarding. We talk a lot about how resource guarding, a lot of the 1% resource guarding cases that we work with, it's like wired into their DNA, right? Sure, it's created to some extent, but it just feels good for them to fucking guard shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful of that when you're looking at breed selection. So let's keep watching.